leaders need your help. We need leaders to guide, support, and upskill us. So our question to you is, what have you been doing to make sure that your junior engineers are not just surviving, but they're thriving?
In this talk, we're going to be splitting the presentation into the 4 key sections of a junior's journey in your company. So we're going to talk about attraction, onboarding, development, and retention. And we're going to have a focus as well on engineers from non-traditional backgrounds. We're hoping to share some actionable insights for each stage based on our work, our research, and our own lived experiences as being junior engineers from non-traditional backgrounds.
So my name is Amber. I come from an economics and accounting degree, if you couldn't tell by the suit that I chose to wear at a tech conference. So I retrained through Code First Girls and the Sky Get Into Tech scheme, which is where I met Jessie. So it's a 16-week part-time boot camp, which was free. So after that, I decided to teach with Code First Girls, and that's where I learned about the insecurities that arise when you're learning how to code and coming from a non-traditional background, and how that persists when you're navigating your first technical role.
And I'm Jessie. I studied psychology at university. I was in customer success at CyberSafe, and I retrained through the bootcamp where I met Amber. I'm now a back-end engineer at CyberSafe, and I'm part of the leadership team at Coding Black Females. Through being part of the leadership team at Coding Black Females, I've been a part of over 100 events and training sessions to help Black women succeed in their engineering roles and get their first engineering role. Through all of these experiences, myself and Amber have, as well as being juniors ourselves, we've come to understand the recurring patterns with the frustration that junior engineers feel in their first role. We would love to share these with you, as well as the ways that leaders can overcome them and ensure that we are the catalyst in their career. So we're going to start with attraction, and we mean a few things by this. The first thing to consider is, how attractive is it for a junior to apply to work at your company? What I mean by that is, what does your ability look like to be able to take on these junior engineers? That will impact the spectrum of candidates that you're able to support and guide through your processes. And not only do you need to think about who you want to attract, but how. We want to believe that our hiring processes are meritocratic and that we're hiring the best person for the job. But what does that actually mean? How we position ourselves and what we have to offer will affect who can see themselves contributing and growing in our teams.
So with bootcamp graduates, you may need to overcome traditional thinking. We want to start off by saying that bootcamp graduates are incredible. They've stepped into the unknown, they've taught themselves how to code or went through a grueling coding bootcamp, and it requires a lot of dedication and courage. But let's face it, we're talking to engineering leaders with results to deliver, and how quickly you can get people up to speed is a factor. The reality is that bootcamp graduates can require a lot of support, especially when they're transitioning into working in this new environment, and they need careful management to transition them, and setting them up for success is key. An unfortunate side effect of this is needing to address concerns and to justify why you should consider taking on engineers that don't come from traditional backgrounds. Allowance for time to develop a bootcamp graduate must be given to ensure hiring managers are open to those who will take more time to become productive members of the team.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the benefits of hiring a bootcamp graduate and follow on from Amber. And I'd like to introduce the Tech Talent Charter, who are leading a movement to address inequality in the UK tech sector and drive inclusion and diversity in a data-driven way. I'd massively recommend, if you're part of a UK tech company, to become a signatory and contribute. You'll gain access to a wealth of their resources and recommendations for improving diversity, equity, and inclusion in technology. So their recent report on the impact of tech skills in boot camps on hiring and performance provides data to demonstrate the value in attracting bootcamp graduates. It's full of actionable resources about helping bootcamp grads as well. But one of the stats from this study is from a survey of hiring decision makers in tech. 38% believed that bootcamp candidates were better prepared for the role compared to computer science graduates. This is compared to the 26% who come from traditional computer science degrees. As bootcamps focus on practical skills required for the role, and combined with having the lived experience of working in another role before transitioning, this can mean that they are ready and able to ramp up slightly quicker. So
it's time to move beyond the "we need someone to fit in" culture narrative. Think about all the incredible people that you could be missing out on, a broad range of personality types, backgrounds, and skills. This can lead to better dynamics, broader outlook, reduced bias, and they bring a different perspective to the company and team. People with great insight from other industries are often sifted out of the recruitment process, and it's because you may be looking for keywords that align with your organization's industry. A great culture for juniors values mindset over technical expertise, and we'll explain more of that later. But we want to say that progressive teams make progressive products.
So where are you sourcing your candidates from? Your talent pool really matters in this process. Leaders must create a culture that addresses systemic bias and racism. There has been an explosion of job boards in the last few years, catering to hiring diverse talent, with Decoding Black Females, People of Color in Tech, Try Girls Code Bar, just to name a few. Candidates are able to see which companies are investing time and resources into sourcing from diverse pools of talent. And those companies will be more attractive to those who are from diverse backgrounds. So have a look into where you're sourcing from, and because your prospective engineers already are.
Transparency. Understanding a company from the outside can be challenging, but we think that the more information that is provided upfront to those outside, the better. People want to make up their own mind and not be convinced in an hour, time-boxed time in an introductory interview, for example. It makes a difference to have process documents such as outlining the application process for roles, progression frameworks, how teams are formed, and company values.
So now on to onboarding. We've put a lot of effort into attract great candidates, so we now need to put in the effort to help them settle in well. There's a lot of assumed knowledge in the processes that enable a team to run well, and it can be challenging to create effective onboarding documentation. So how do we make it as frictionless as possible for a new joiner to fit in? And how do we make it an enjoyable process and not one that fills a junior with dread when they log in and look at that long to-do list?
Mentors, buddies, and sponsors. Is there a perfect ratio, and what are the differences? So we'll start off with speaking about mentors. And their role is to guide a person by building trust and modeling positive behaviors. An effective mentor understands that their role is to be dependable, engaged, authentic, and in tune with the needs of the mentee. A mentor's role isn't necessarily to spoon-feed technical information to the mentee, but it is instead to teach them how to learn for themselves. Learning how to learn is challenging, and this could definitely be a whole separate talk, but getting this right will enable them to independently develop their skills, knowledge, and technical abilities.
Next, we've got a buddy system. So a buddy system is a cooperative arrangement where two people are paired to assume responsibility for each other's welfare. So they don't need to be specialized in the same domain, and the main thing with this kind of system is that they are each other's safe person to share concerns with. The role is to assure them that they are part of a community, that they're included, and that they belong. This creates a safe space where they can share concerns early, and we can address them before they become bigger issues that might make them want to leave. Make sure your new joiners have a buddy for when they arrive.
Sponsors. High-performing people need sponsors, and a sponsor is a leader within the company or someone who is well-respected. They play an active role in career development of high performers, and sponsorship can be particularly beneficial to those who struggle to rise through the ranks of organizations, such as women or people of color, and having someone actively promote you means that you're much more likely to get noticed for the work that you're doing. The goal with the sponsor is to lead to faster advancement to higher career levels, improve representation, driving morale, and improving retention. Sponsorship is essential, and as a leader, you actively need to endorse high-performing juniors, and it doesn't have to be formal. So you can say something like, I need to advocate for this person because I know they want to progress and they've been doing really challenging work, push themselves, and really making a difference within the company so quickly. But all three of these roles are pivotal to the success of a junior engineer, and the answer is there is no perfect ratio.
So you also want to be providing opportunities in the beginning to add value beyond adding code. A new team member is here to contribute more than just the code they write, and so you want to enable them to add value from day one. A product-driven company can benefit from having fresh eyes on what it's building, And you can drive innovation by empowering individuals, and juniors specifically, to pursue and create opportunities for themselves within different areas of the business, whether that's taking ownership of a problem or the solution that they propose. So it's important to communicate the value of their perspective to them so that they can feel that they're adding from day one. Yeah, sorry.
Development. So this section is all about supporting your juniors to increase their confidence, technical understanding, contribution, and any other skills that they're looking to develop.
So the initial tasks and projects that will enable growth, we're going to be talking about pair programming sessions, emphasis on smaller tasks, and sometimes the ones that are a little bit more boring and less innovative, and helping to coach for discovery on figuring out exactly where their interests lie.
Programming sessions. So your goal as a leader is to maximize your juniors' exposure to different teaching styles and minimizing the likelihood of picking up bad habits. This is because they get to see a variety of best practices and learn from different people. And within these sessions, it's important to communicate pair programming styles. For example, I like to refactor after I've typed out everything. Some people like to refactor as they go and set effective boundaries. So perhaps working with the Pomodoro method, where you work for 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break, and then regroup, and also setting time to have lunch as well.
And then there's quick win work. So the idea is you want to be able to create the work, a selection of work, which will build skills and knowledge of the product incrementally. So you want to make sure that this is a variety of work and that they can familiarize themselves with different areas of your product. It might be more work initially to properly refine these tasks for the junior, but using that session as an opportunity to scope it with them and involve them in that scoping session will also add to their skills. Communicate the value and the impact of these smaller pieces. So I know, for example, one of my first pieces of work when I was a junior was refactoring a whole load of code. And it initially felt meaningless for me. I wasn't sure what value it was adding. But once it was explained that it was integral and contributing to the wider goals of the team, it was much more satisfying for me to complete, and I was a lot more motivated to get that work done.
The balance between upskilling learners versus delivering projects. Ideally, these two things would happen at a constant rate together, but we understand that you have your own work pressures and deliverables. Where possible, you can create opportunities by bringing your juniors with you by slowing down on tasks so you can deliver it together. And doing this allows you to provide a comfortable environment and tasks that will facilitate the growth and development of the juniors within your team.
We just spoke about quick win work and the balance between quick win and larger tasks. So I wanted to talk about the balance or the benefit of turning a quick fix into a larger task. This is an opportunity to break a task down and create a full refactor story. And you're planting the seeds as a leader to develop a greater depth of understanding and providing the opportunity to identify how and where we can leave code better than how we found it, which is an important lesson for any junior to learn. So an example would be taking a bug fix and turning it into include a feature enhancement as well. So you're giving the junior the opportunity to see a wider piece of work be released and also explaining about how you can prevent issues similar to that occurring in the future.
Coaching them to find their interests. So areas that your juniors can specialize in is vast in general. So it's important here to not assume knowledge. A few questions that you can support them in answering includes what motivates them and what is a satisfying problem for them to solve. Helping them to find their voice is key, so it's important to support your juniors to increase their self-awareness and awareness of personal preferences and working styles. Creating tasks based on interest leads to faster development, higher satisfaction, and increased motivation. Burnout.
So there are a lot of different forms of burnout, and the form that I'm going to talk about is specific to the burnout caused by feeling that there's not enough progress. So non-traditional juniors are on a mission to grow and prove themselves, and sometimes at a rate which can be seen as unrealistic. But this can lead to them putting a lot of pressure on themselves. For non-traditional candidates, it can be unexpected to spend so much of your time learning, especially in the beginning. So you can take an active step to mitigate this by setting a good example with how your team learns, learning in public. Something that we do really well is we've got a Today I Learned channel in Slack, and all of the engineers contribute and share the things that they're learning. And that puts more of an emphasis on learning in the open and the reality of being an engineer, which is always learning. There's also the role for you to provide reassurance that they are on the right track. The progress that you're seeing the junior make may be really, really obvious to you, but make sure you're communicating that to them through consistent feedback. Take the time to recognize their achievements, don't rush past their goals, and give them space to celebrate.
Goal setting with a junior engineer. So in my first role as a junior software engineer, I had a conversation with my director, and he asked me, what are your goals? And I was just like, oh, I just want to get good at React. Like, I didn't really have a set plan. I just didn't know how I was going to achieve that, but that's just what I wanted to be. I kind of just wanted to be a super coder. So how can I level up to do that? Thank goodness he took charge of that conversation, and he showed me the job description for my next promotion up. He showed me the requirements needed to get that promotion, and then he set quarterly goals for me to work me up to that point. The benefits of this is because it communicates to me that this is somewhere that I can see myself progressing and developing in my career. And the difference that he makes here is the fact that he helps me to actually structure my goals. So it's important that you set these goals with your junior engineer, you communicate the fact that this is a place where you can progress and grow, and offer weekly support sessions just to check in with them and see how they're getting on.
Value mindset over technical expertise. So people with a growth mindset tend to take on challenges and learn from them, which increases their abilities and their achievements. They achieve more than those with fixed mindsets because they worry less about being perceived as smart and put more effort into actually learning. Nowadays, attitudes are shifting from being a know-it-all to being a learn-it-all. Carol Dweck's research shows that when entire companies embrace growth mindsets, their people report feeling more committed, more empowered, and they also receive far greater organizational support for their progression.
Are more training courses really the answer? When thinking about development, there's a tendency to look at training courses as the best way to enhance your skills. However, we want to make it clear that training courses is just one piece of the development puzzle, and ones that people tend to go to first. In the pre-pandemic world, where going to the office was the norm, there were more opportunities for informal learning, just like turning around, tapping someone on the shoulder, to shadow them, see what they're working on, and to just ask a simple question. However, informal learning is more difficult online now. Employees need to be deliberate in creating opportunities for this through setting up learning sessions and focus on the juniors' learning gaps. So methods like this, so what we've spoken about before, such as pair programming, is definitely a way that you can do this. So check in with your junior, are they leading the pair programming sessions? Like, are they driving? It can be quite disengaging just to watch someone code and you're just sitting there like, I don't have a clue what's going on. Mentoring, coaching, reading a book or article, but what's important here is we need to prioritize that development conversation and give constructive and solutions-focused feedback.
Retention. Every company wants high performers, but not all of them know how to retain them. We're going to talk about the top reasons that we hear juniors are leaving their roles, and also where you can focus in order to ensure that they are motivated to stay. So I want to talk about psychological safety. And where there's psychological safety in a team, people are more likely to take risks, admit mistakes, share ideas, and experiment. So this is an environment where your junior can truly thrive. You need to make it really safe to fail. In a tech sense, this means making it harder for failure to impact production, but even when those inevitable issues do occur, your psychologically safe environment fosters a learning from failure attitude. So an example of this is the DevOps HugOps movement, and we've seen how the internet is helping and showing empathy when things get tough and production goes down at certain tech companies, and that really demonstrates the power of community care. Sharing burdens together can affect and help people manage their stress better. So what this means for you is that if an issue does arise, you come together when there's a major incident, and there's no blame culture. Even if the junior isn't involved, you should include them in the incident report rooms or the meetings that you have, just to make sure that they are witnessing what it looks like through all levels of the business.
Imposter syndrome. So this is defined as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. Personally, I felt most like an imposter syndrome during my first few months. I was worried about not being able to contribute and how quickly I should be picking things up. And it's resulted in me having this anxiety during stand-up when I was just like, what did I do yesterday? I just did some training courses and I did my best to keep up with the pair programming sessions. But I felt like I was the problem. And despite receiving great feedback from my manager, and that was despite receiving great feedback from my manager and my team. In an article called Stop Telling Women That They Have Imposter Syndrome, the writers explained that the concept of imposter syndrome puts the blame on individuals. This is without accounting for the historical and cultural contents that are foundational to how it manifests for women and people of color. Imposter syndrome directs our view towards fixing people at work instead of fixing the places where people work.
So I want to talk about designing promotion process with your top talent in mind. We all know that increasing numbers of people, and especially juniors, leave their jobs in order to gain promotions elsewhere. We should be rewarding loyalty. Retraining staff is costly, but we also want to focus on retaining our people. So when it comes to the promotion process, especially for those early on in their career, it can be daunting. Why do juniors leave? They leave because they feel they're not able to progress internally, and they're leaving in order to move upwards. Make the process visible and make it attainable. Design the promotion process with your top talent in mind so that you can consider how to get them through those hurdles.
So in a book titled The Squiggly Career, they question whether this is the end of the career ladder. They state that we've now moved on from the idea that a job is for life, and instead it's actually a lot more normal for people to change through industries and move through roles. But a leader is able to understand the business well enough to be able to signpost an individual to a framework. What's important here is to provide clarity on the competencies required for progression and coach them to understand the skills that they want to develop in accordance to their individual learning styles. When it comes to having a clear path, structure on time spent in a role can be reassuring for some. So, for example, when I spoke to my director, he said, give it 18 months. However, for others, they may see this as a hindrance to their development, especially if they are already competent for that promotion in a shorter time frame. So say if I was competent after 10 months. So here we need to consider, are there clear requirements for promotion, and is this consistent across the teams? Manage expectations, but please be mindful not to put off ambitious individuals. Work closely with them to achieve their desired growth, and it is your job to break down required milestones and map it out with them. So to end, I would like to say that there is no perfect strategy and there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Adapt and change as you grow and meet the ever-changing needs of your junior talent.